Divine Concoction. This is a Precon from March of the Machine, and our commander is Kazla the Broken Halo. For 3, blue, red, white, it's a 5/4 angel ally. It has Convoke, which means your creatures can help cast this spell. Each creature you tap while casting this spell pays for 1 colorless mana or 1 mana of that creature's color. It has Flying, Vigilance, and Haste, and whenever you cast another spell that has Convoke, scry 2, then draw a card. So as for the potential upgrades for this deck, I thought of Alondra Skydreamer. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you get a 2/2 blue Drake creature token with Flying. But it also says whenever you draw your 5th card each turn, Alondra Skydreamer and Drakes you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. I thought this could be a interesting card for this deck if we can find ways to draw multiple cards. Next we have Aven Wind Guide. This deck has a lot of tokens in it, so why not give our tokens Flying and Vigilance now? This also is a flyer, and it has Vigilance for just 4 mana, and it's giving a board-wide buff to all of our token creatures. Next is Benny Brack's Zoologist. This is an amazing way to draw cards. It says at the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card, and since there's a theme of token creating in here, this is a really cool one. It also has Convoke, which goes along with the theme of the deck, which I think this is a great inclusion. Chord of Grace. Since we have a slight theme of card draw going on here, when this enters the battlefield, we become the Monarch. At the beginning of our upkeep, we create a 1/1 spirit creature token with Flying. If we're the Monarch, we get a 4/4 angel with Flying instead. And whenever we are the Monarch, we get to draw a card at our end step, so we're promoting card draw, making tokens, and I think this is a great budget card to potentially upgrade this deck. Curiosity Crafter. This is a 3/3 flyer that gives us no maximum hand size, and whenever a creature token you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. We're going to have a lot of tokens in this deck, and no max hand size. This is going to be great for this kind of deck. Now this one's kind of pushing it. It's God Eternal Oketra. You might be looking at me kind of funny by mentioning this card, but it does make creature tokens, and hear me out. There's 28 creatures in this deck already, and God Eternal Oketra says whenever we cast a creature spell, create a 4/4 black zombie warrior creature token with Vigilance. That's what I care about. We're making tokens, and we already have a huge amount of creatures, so this could be a potential upgrade. Idol of Oblivion. If we're making tokens, this is a card you should be putting in your deck. We can tap this to draw a card, but we can only activate it if we've created a token this turn. This deck will be doing that. Intangible Virtue. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. Vigilance is very powerful in Commander, especially because we have 3 other opponents. That can give our opponents plenty of chances to attack us if we are tapped out. Junkwinder. This is a really sweet one. It has affinity for tokens, so that means it costs 1 less for each token we control, so we can end up paying 2 blue mana in the best scenario. It also says whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls, and it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. So this can really help us get through to our opponents with all of those tokens that we're making, leaving our opponents wide open. Nayali Sun's Vanguard. Attacking tokens you control have double strike, so now those 1/1s deal 2 damage, those 2/2s deal 4 damage, but even more exciting, whenever 1 or more tokens you control attack a player, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if you attacked with a token, you may play that card. So we're going to get more card draw, in quotes, more card draw, from this sweet card right here. We get to play those cards until end of turn, and red and white really takes advantage of the exiled spells, so why not throw this, or try to throw it into this deck. Psychic Corrosion. If we wanted to go into a mill type of deck, I think it could work. So it says whenever you draw a card, each opponent puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard, so we would be milling our opponents if this becomes a deck where we're drawing a ton of cards. Speaking of drawing a ton of cards, we have Psychosis Crawler. Whenever we draw a card, each opponent loses 1. So again, if we're drawing a bunch of cards, this may be one to consider. Song of the World Soul. Whenever you cast a spell, Populate. Since this could be a heavily token deck, why not whenever we just cast a spell, we get to make another token. It is 6 mana, but it's well worth that. Takasa's Welcome. Whenever 1 or more creatures with mana value 3 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card, but this only triggers once each turn. What's great is that it doesn't specify token or non-token, so every time we make a token, we get to draw a card off of this, but only once each turn. We also have Welcoming Vampire. Whenever 1 or more creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. Again, great for token decks because they have 0 mana value. If you'd like any of these cards that I mentioned, they'll be in the description down below, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.